Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Rines Report. I'm your host, Tristan Blake Ryans, and thank you for tuning in to RadioFreeRadford.com. Quite a week for the NFL. After the events of this week, I would not be doing my due diligence if I did not talk about the protests. It's a huge focal point of debate all over news media this week. I'll also be talking about Week 4 in the NFL, including my predictions, Dwayne Wade siding with the Cleveland Cavaliers, the college basketball scandal surrounding now former Louisville coach Rich Pitino and administrator Dom Jurek. Let's begin with the NFL protests. This is a huge deal. Began with former 49ers quarterback Colin Kaepernick when he decided to take a kneel during the national anthem last season. Protests centered around systematic oppression of minority groups. That was his target. That was trying to be his message going forward with this entire protest. Not necessarily targeting the military, using his platform as a starting NFL quarterback at the time to get this thing going. This was falling into the wayside of news media slowly. We talked a little bit about it last week. It's been an ongoing conversation piece. A lot of people have very different views, very different takes on the entire piece, but it was going away slowly. And then President Donald Trump made statements condemning players who have knelt to be cut, fired, put away from their respective organizations. This has prompted the largest protest this past week 3 of the NFL of players kneeling against Trump, taking a stand against the commander-in-chief. Some players also stood locked in arms to show team unity. Many teams released statements supporting their players and coaching staffs for participating in their First Amendment rights. A lot of people very outraged at this. Companies are even, like DirecTV, has allowed people to cancel their subscriptions to NFL Sunday Ticket. Big problem that the whole situation is deviated from the initial protest and has been geared up receiving disrespect of the United States military. From one side, the protests supposed to bring awareness to social issues, including minority peoples being oppressed. A lot of people have ignored this now, and another major issue of this, the other side, is the disrespect of the military, those who fight for our rights in this to have this freedom of speech in this country. So it's a weird cycle where people have different takes on it. It's like, you shouldn't be protesting because this is disrespectful to the military, but it's also a First Amendment right. There are a number of people who, like I said, are very against the stance taken by a number of these players. There are a number of people who are for it. Veterans have made their voices heard as well, including Alejandro Villanueva, Steelers offensive lineman, during the protest at Soldier Field in Chicago, major setting for a former military, Army Ranger who had multiple deployments in Afghanistan. He was photographed standing by himself during the national anthem. The Pittsburgh Steelers team decided to stay in the tunnel. That way they were trying to not be a part of it. But now with this, it seems that the Steelers and the rest of the organization, Alejandro Villanueva, has brought a lot of news, brought a lot of attention to this organization in particular. He has since apologized to the organization, feels that he did not do the right thing by remaining with his teammates in the tunnel. Very team mindset. He had talked to a number of, the captains, the head coach, and asked about standing out there, and it was a miscoordination through the team. There were a number of players who wanted to stand, a number of players who wanted to kneel, show the signs of unity by locking arms. So a lot of people are taking Villanueva, and it's a mixed feeling. But overall, these protests, I personally, like I've said a number of times on my show before in the past, you like me on my YouTube page and listen to my old shows, you've also found, I've said this a number of times, I try not to mix sports and politics. My thoughts on this, I feel like it's a very tough line to walk as a member of the media, as a member of sports media, as a member of this university, Radford University, as a member of Radio Free Radford, the general manager, the head of this organization. I'm trying to keep my personal views out of this. Personally, I feel that on both sides you have a large amounts of free speech being utilized. That is a right we have as members of the United States of America, as citizens of this great country. We have the right to freely speak our minds about any topic, have our voices heard. And the NFL, a lot of the players since Colin Kaepernick have used the NFL, the national anthem, to bring the awareness to these or attempt to bring awareness to these social issues surrounding communities that these players have come from, that their family, their friends are still a part of, looking for some social justice in some sense. It's a very thin line, because on the other side, personally, I do have a lot of respect for the military, but I also respect where these players are coming from. They have this right. A lot of people feel like it's tarnishing what the military stands for. A lot of people feel as though this is something that strikes against the core of what the military stands for, what the military is fighting for in places like Afghanistan, Iraq, all over the world. It's a very tough line to walk, and I don't know, it brings a lot of attention to some people. I had made a post on my personal page basically saying that I feel like this is a great week to realize the amount of freedom we have as Americans to express these rights, and a number of backlash, a number of supports for this statement, a number of people arguing back and forth. There's so much divisiveness on this issue. A lot of people, like I've said, they're canceling their subscriptions with DirecTV's NFL Sunday Ticket because they see their team has knelt, or players on the team have knelt, with no repercussion, and that's one side. And I don't know what's going to happen after this. Will the NFL make some kind of rule change where players are not allowed to protest? The NFL, not on a gigantic scale, I don't believe that they are losing tons and tons and tons of money because of loss of viewership. There are a lot of people who are saying, I'm not going to watch the NFL anymore. I'm done with this until these owners come down and step down and tell their players, that they can't kneel, that do it on their own time, that they're not going to watch football anymore. And that's one side. You are perfectly capable. You have the right to do so. On the other side of this, people are going to still watch. It's football. It's Sunday. Personally, I love football. I love sports because usually it takes the medium of politics out. It is direct competition. It is people, athletes, going head to head. These amazing games, sports like NBA, the NFL, MLB, all sorts of formats for just watching sports and at its core. But now we're at a point now politically where players who have this voice, players who have this stance are able to, protest. They have the right to do so. There's nothing saying they cannot. There are both sides of this issue. It's hard to not be on one side or the other. As somebody who's a part of this news media, I see a lot of both sides. Now, I think that you should have the right to protest in the sense. I feel like it is a perfectly good platform. It does not affect the game. And as long as the ownership and the league is not condemning, bringing light to these issues, that I find it acceptable. I find that there's no problem with it. Many people will disagree with me. That's fine. I also feel that, these military veterans have fought for these rights. It's a very valid, great point. But as Americans, as members of the United States of America, citizens of this great country of ours, if we do not express these rights, what do they mean? We have these rights to speak freely. Our freedom of speech is apparent. It is essential to being part of this great nation. That's the way I feel. It is how we can talk about things like social injustices, social issues, things on the political forum. Other places in the world, we don't have the option to do so. So I'm very happy to be a part of this nation. I'm very happy to be here. I just have my personal feelings about the issue. Like I said, I'm trying to stay unpartisan, unbiased about it publicly, but I just feel like there shouldn't be this serious of a backlash about it. It is a form of protest. People are allowed to protest. No one's being harmed by this, and you're allowed to be offended. That's perfectly fine. But I'm not going to sit here and say I'm a politically forward person, that I know everything about politics, know everything about every single issue. But this has gone on and brought into the NFL world. I'm not going to be doing my due diligence unless I talk about it. So this is my 10 minutes so far of me talking about this big deal. Every platform has talked about it. The NFL, ESPN, Fox Sports, everybody is talking about this, and I had to do it. I'm going to do this. I am doing this. I'm very happy to be everybody to be listening right now. Thank you very much for the support. Hopefully I am not bothering you on any political lines, but this isn't necessarily a political show. This is a sports show at its core, and I'm very happy to be part of it. Very happy to be part of this great university and part of, student media as a whole. Thank you guys very much for the support. All over the place. There's a lot of divisiveness. Personally, I like football. And as a journalist, I'm going to have to talk about these things. There's two sides. People who are outraged, who feel as though people are stomping on the flag in a sense by taking the knee. People who are not covering their hands over their hearts. And you're fair to have that opinion. That's fine. You're also fair to have the right to protest. And what the NFL does because of these protests, yet to be seen. I can't imagine there's nothing that's going to be done about it in the offseason this year. So we'll have to find out. It's just a matter of time. Maybe these protests will again start to die off. Maybe they will get bigger this week. NFL Week 4. There's a lot to talk about, speaking of which. And we can get moving on. I'm very happy to be back on the air. Very happy to be on this week. Sure got a lot to talk about this week. So let's stick around. We're going to keep talking about some more sports. Next up, we're going to be talking about the college men's basketball scandal.
Hey everyone, this is Demi Lovato. And you're listening to today's Top Hits Radio Free Radford.
Hello, this is Tristan Blake Rines. You're listening to the Rines Report here on RadioFreeRadford.com. The Adidas men's basketball scandal is a 3-year culmination of an FBI investigation. They have announced that charges are being brought against a number of assistant coaches: Auburn Chuck Pearson, Oklahoma State Lamont Evans, Arizona Emmanuel Book Richardson, and Southern California's Tony Bland. Those are just assistant coaches. Whew. A lot to talk about this week. My mind's moving fast. The Adidas members as well: James Gatto, Director of Global Sports Marketing; Merle Code, Adidas employee; Christian Dawkins, former NBA agent, recently fired from ASM Sports; Munish Sood, financial advisor; Jonathan Brad Augustine, president of the League Initiative and program director for Adidas-sponsored One Family AAU program; Rashawn Michael, former NBA official, founded the Thompson Bespoke clothing line. Major people who have been charged with this: former, placed on administrative leave by the university, Louisville head coach Rick Pitino, 2013 national champion. Off the court has had a number of his own legal problems, things of that sort. Now also placed on administrative leave. Former athletic director Tom Jurek, both presumably fired by the university, and the allegations are staggering. Wire fraud, money laundering, conspiracy, soliciting, number of other counts. There's so much going on with this, and at the center of it is a successful coach from Louisville. Players are unnamed in this. They go by player 1 through all the way to 10 to 15, however many there are. Payments of hundreds of thousands of dollars being given to players, laundered to players, and steering players to Adidas schools, happening at all these other universities. I can't imagine this is just as far as it's come. These are just the things I found on ESPN. SB Nation has a great article on it. In case you're wondering more about the entire topic, this is crazy. This is obviously corrupt. Destroys the integrity of themselves, as well as, does not shine a very good light on any of these athletic programs at any of these universities. And it takes advantage of players and their families. These players, coming from all sorts of backgrounds, you have no idea financially what they are going through, so they're being swayed with large amounts of money that I've never seen $100,000 in my life. I just imagine, it's hard not to imagine these interactions taking place with some silver briefcase where they open it up and, there's $100,000 in it. But no, it's not like that. And you're putting the integrity of these great football and, basketball schools on the line. Louisville, a very big basketball school now, and, the figurehead of all this is Rick Pitino. And it's hard not to talk about something like this. It's insane. Hundreds of thousands of dollars of these players, all sorts of people involved, tailored clothing being involved as well, suits, all sorts of things for free, and just money all over the place. And I'm thinking about it. It's just such a developing story. There's so much to learn still. It's another scandal in the NCAA. And I can't imagine, I've had a number of conversations about this as well. A classmate of mine was talking about how, these kids get put in these situations where they don't get paid to be athletes for these programs. Excuse me. They don't get paid to be athletes for these programs, put their bodies on the line. Not everybody is a one and done in college basketball. In college football, this isn't reaching to college football, but, more than just the education clause, you're putting your body on the line for these schools to try to make it to the professional level. Now, mind you, this is, again, a 3-year culmination of an investigation. Number of charges being, brought forward. Allegations. Payments of $100,000 to a player from Adidas to sign with Louisville. Paying coaches, paying administrators to try to get these kids to come, and by virtue of paying them to come to these schools to play for Adidas, and by the time they hit the pros, to also try to coax them into officially signing with Adidas, guys who represent Adidas, agents. It's crazy. Steering players to Adidas schools, money laundering, conspiracy, soliciting. Like I said, great source, SB Nation. You can just Google college basketball scandal 2017. You'll find it. It's up there. It's just the amount of corruption inside of all these big programs. It's unacceptable, and I just want to understand why these kind of guys put their names on the line, put these athletic programs on the line, a number of these players, livelihoods on the line for this. It's quite sad, personally. We still have a lot to talk about today. It's only 5:20, 5:17, here in Radford, Virginia. Beautiful campus, beautiful school, lovely weather for the late September. Oh, man, it needs to get a little colder, in my opinion. It needs to get a little bit colder, a little bit chillier. I can start throwing on the suit jackets. Right now I'm sitting here in a nice, collar shirt, buttoned up, but it's still a little toasty. It's got to cool off here sometime. Goodness. Coming into fall now, and we're going to be talking about Dwayne Wade signing with the Cavaliers.
All the hits. Radio Free Radford.
Thank you again for joining us. This is Tristan Blake Rines with the Rines Report, spelled R-A-N-E-S. You can find us on Facebook. Also like Radio Free Radford on Facebook. We have a number of great hosts this year. Right now we have, coming into next week, we'll be having 15 shows, including this one. A number of great hosts, experience from all over the place. If you're a student listening to this and you haven't gotten onto Radio Free Radford or haven't heard about it, Highlander student media in general, you need to change that, gain some experience, get a show with us. Radio Free Radford, you can find us in 025 Tyler Hall, Radford University, and get some more experience, get your name out there, become a part of a great program. Always looking for new hosts. If you're looking to advertise, hit me up. TRINES at radford.edu, and you can potentially start advertising with us, get your name on our website. You know what you're listening to? Your advertisement can be on there. I could be reading your advertisement right now as we speak. So, thank you very much for tuning in. We're talking about Dwayne Wade now signing with the Cavaliers. This is a big deal in the realm of basketball. Reunited with LeBron James, they won a couple titles with the Miami Heat. LeBron James returned to Cleveland. Dwayne has since, bounced from, he left Miami, wants to retire with the Heat, by the way. Just keep that in note. Went to the Bulls last season, had a semi-productive season, and now he's going to be with the Cleveland Cavaliers. This team, after only losing Kyrie Irving in a trade, they gained Isaiah Thomas and Jay Crowder. Signed Derrick Rose, a former MVP. Still got some basketball left to play in him, even after having a number of injury problems. And Dwayne Wade. They still have Tristan Thompson on this team, Richard Jefferson, Kevin Love. This is going to be a really good team. The East is now super competitive between the Celtics and the Cavaliers. You cannot forget about Carmelo Anthony being traded to the Thunder as well. That's going to be a strong starting squad. Russell Westbrook, Paul George, Carmelo Anthony, Steven Adams, and Roberson. The West is getting a little more stacked, with the Houston Rockets picking up Chris Paul, James Harden, that two just by itself is a scary tandem. And you got, the Minnesota Timberwolves picking up Jimmy Butler. That's Butler, Anthony Towns, and Wiggins. That's a strong three. Very strong bench as well. The NBA this season is going to be very, very interesting, in my personal opinion. I can't wait to see it. Even though I do have, a little bit of bias on my team. It's going to be an interesting season to watch. You get to watch a lot of big games. Tonight we also have a big game in the NFL. We have, the Chicago Bears meeting up, a tie match throughout all of history of the NFL. Chicago Bears in Green Bay trying to capitalize upon a interesting division this year. But let's stick back to basketball. Now this Cavaliers team is looking even stronger. There's a lot of veteran presence on this team with LeBron James. It's going to be very interesting to see how exactly the Celtics respond with this, how they're going to prepare. They have some strong players, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Marcus Smart, along with Kyrie Irving. They signed Gordon Hayward this offseason. Morris, Al Horford's still on the team. This is going to be a very interesting, battle in the East. You still have your Toronto Raptors with DeMar DeRozan, Kyle Lowry. Out West, you still have you got the Warriors, man. They're just so good. I don't know if anybody's been able to get through them. They're just so good. I don't know. That's my early favorite to win it all again this year, with Tristan Thompson, Kevin Durant, Draymond Green, and Steph Curry. This team is going to be very, very good. I just don't see anybody getting through them. Even with all these great signings by the Cavaliers, it's just the amount of speed, the amount of youth that they have over in Golden State. I don't know if Cleveland's going to be able to keep up with them again. We'll see, man. It's going to be something. I want to say thank you very much to our photographer for the Rines Report, Shiza J. Manzor, who is also involved with Rock TV, one of the other great Highlander student media programs we have here with Radford Highlander Student Media. Experience can come from anywhere, ladies and gentlemen. We also have a number of things. If you're more interested in the writing field, the Tartan's always looking for writers, looking for the sports section, looking for anything from news, all over the place. You can write for the Radford University as long as you're a student. Please come around, hop into the office. Remember, it's Tyler 025, basement floor. Someone's always here. Someone can always help you, and you have a lot of great opportunities here. A lot to talk about. Man, it's crazy doing this by myself, honestly. I will say that much. It's been a while, almost a year now, and we've had some great guests on. Donovan Vadalana up in Massachusetts now. Nicholas Penninger, Terrence Schofield. Had the No Limits podcast with Radio Free Radford now every Friday, and they have their own sports podcast talking about a number of great things. I can't imagine what they're going to talk about this week. We miss Nick, we miss Terrence, we miss Donovan. Ray Amato and other former guests of mine also having a show here on Fridays. You should tune in. There's a big lineup starting at about 12 o'clock, all the way to 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, ending off with the vice president of Radio Free Radford, Wydell Lynch. He has his own show, does music, all sorts of stuff. You got to tune into these guys. Back to the topic, though. It's still running through Golden State in the NBA. I just can't imagine anybody taking them off. As much as I'd like to see the Celtics do it, finally bridge the gap between them and the Cavaliers, make it to the finals, it's going to be a tough road for anybody getting through there. It really is. It's scary. Running through topics pretty quick this week, and we're going to be talking about the NFL Week 4, their picks coming up, talking about individual teams as well. Tom Brady winning his... Tom Brady winning his, 54th AFC Player of the Week award. Kareem Hunt also doing great on the FedEx Air and Ground, winning that award as well with Tom Brady. There's a lot to talk about this week, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us. This is Tristan Blake Ryan still with RadioFreeRadford.com. Let's talk about tonight's matchup. Chicago at Green Bay. The entire series between these two teams over the entire history of the NFL, it's tied up. The Packers have scored more points, so I don't know. We'll see what happens. Mike Glennon's looking pretty good. Tariq Cohen, we still have about 35 more minutes to go in this broadcast, but thank you guys very much for tuning in. Tariq Cohen looking pretty good. Jordan Howard. The Bears' defense is still nothing to sneeze at. Mike Glennon, as long as his receivers are catching that ball, I can't imagine that they're going to have a bad game. Green Bay, you have Aaron Rodgers, Clay Matthews, Nick Perry, Randall Cobb, Devontae Adams, Jordy Nelson. There's so many weapons for Aaron Rodgers to throw to this week. Ty Montgomery, still a receiver converted to running back, of all things. It's going to be a good matchup. Tune in tonight. It's going to be at 8:30 NFL Network. Formerly used to have these things on Twitter, make it so accessible. But now it's on NFL Network. Be able to, make your subscription. Pay them dollars. Watch some football on Thursdays. Because then you got your Friday night lights. Then you got your Saturday college football. Then you go right back to the NFL on Sunday. Quite exciting. Let's see. We also have the 9:30 game in London. I want to say that the NFL reaching out and branching off to these other countries. There's going to be a game in Mexico this year. New England Patriots with the Oakland Raiders. Down in Mexico City. The methods for some of these teams also going into these foreign environments. How do they prepare? It's brought to my attention this week because they talked about it a lot in the Jacksonville and Baltimore game in London at Wembley Stadium. Those games are going to be broadcasted at 9:30 a.m. on Yahoo. This week it's going to be New Orleans and Miami. Some teams take the approach of showing up late the night before and then just riding out and going out to that game and getting at it. Jacksonville obviously has the advantage in London. They've signed like a multi-year contract to play in Wembley every year. There's only a handful of teams that I'm pretty sure haven't played, including like the Titans. I'm pretty sure haven't played there. The Packers haven't played there. Oh, man. Beautiful stadium. There's a big following out there in London for NFL teams to come out there. A lot of different fans, a lot of different, favorites. It's a great experience. I'd love to see it one day, personally. New Orleans at Miami this week, though. Drew Brees, he's going to be catching on fire, hopefully. My fantasy team's got to do a little better. I'm 1-2. I lost David Johnson. I feel so bad. David Johnson. Greg Olsen never gets hurt. Breaks his foot. Somebody please help me. Somebody please help me. No, it's going to be an interesting matchup this week. New Orleans at Miami. Miami has a pretty good defense. The offense, it's kind of hit or miss with Jay Cutler back there. You never know if he's going to throw it 40 yards out of bounds or if he's going to hit you right on the numbers. I wish I had Nick here to talk about me with this. He would go off. But yeah. Joined here wonderfully by Shiza Manzour, like I said earlier. Great photographer. Without her, we wouldn't have half of the photography for my page. A number of the photography for, the shows, helps manage the website with Radio Free Radford. So we're very happy to have her as a part of the team. This Sunday NFL lineup, we have Carolina at New England. It's going to be a good game. I feel like New England's offense is going to battle past the Carolina defense. Luke Kuechly, Charles Johnson, big defense. Cam Newton, hopefully, plays a good game. It's in New England, though. It's so tough to win there, unless you're the Kansas City Chiefs. Number of great things to talk about this week. Let's see. No, I think it's going to be a good game. It's the 1 p.m. games with the Sunday NFL kickoff. I just want to get some feedback. Wonder. It's just strange. It's been so long since I've done a show by myself. I got to keep that energy up, man. Here's some water. But Carolina at New England, I feel like Cam Newton has a pretty decent game. Christian McCaffrey, the New England defense is wavering. They haven't been able to stop teams from scoring anything less than, what did they score this week? 28 points, the Texans? That's scary. Hopefully the Patriots get back Dante Hightower, the leader of that front seven. Major missing, him in the front seven. Be able to shut down run games, influence the passing game, get after quarterbacks. He's the guy for their front seven that makes it all work. In Jacksonville at the New York Jets. I can't say I necessarily want to see this game. Not going to lie. But I feel like there's some potential there. The Jets somehow beating Miami 20-0. That defense put in work. Will Powell hopefully having a good game. Matt Forte as well. Josh McCown, winning a few games here and there. One of the oldest quarterbacks in the league, in case you didn't know that. One of the top 4 oldest guys behind Brady and Breeze, I'm pretty sure. And is just older than Carson Palmer. McCown's been in the league for forever. About as long as I've been alive. Maybe a little less. Let's see. Tennessee at Houston. Marcus Mariota has been playing pretty well this season. The ground and pound is working out for him. But Deshaun Watson's looking like a pro. looking like a pro. I'm still sticking with him as my offensive rookie of the year, although Kareem Hunt is not making it easy for me to keep making that point. Whew. Let's see. Yeah, Houston's going to have a really good defensive game, but I don't think it's going to be enough. I feel like Seattle's been playing pretty well as well, and Tennessee put up 33 on them. So, if that gives you any precursor, the Patriots put up, 35 points, I'm pretty sure, on that defense as well. A couple back-to-back weeks of some unfortunate trouble for the Houston defense. Pittsburgh at Baltimore, it's a big rivalry. I think this is going to be one of the matchups to watch this week. Big Ben having some struggles lately, but it's still a great rivalry. Pittsburgh at Baltimore. Last week, what was it? Last year, the immaculate extension by Antonio Brown. I'm pretty sure. It's quite a play. I love seeing the NFL commercials come up with the fan reactions from all over the place in different sections. It's something to see, and the reactions you get. It's one of those things I wish I could do is go to some of these NFL games. Games like the Pittsburgh at Baltimore, rivalry games are the ones where you get the best crowd reaction. Best crowd reactions. You just imagine like any sport, if you could go to any game that week, if your favorite team wasn't playing in the NFL, unless you're a Baltimore or Pittsburgh fan, at any game you could possibly go to, I would definitely want to go see that game. But who knows? With the way Pittsburgh's been playing recently, it could be a huge blowout, although Baltimore looked terrible last week against Jacksonville in London, maybe a little jet-lagged. So we'll see how that pans out for them. Excuse me. Cincinnati at Cleveland. I can't imagine this being a terribly spectacular game, although I was wrong about that before when it came to the LA Rams at the San Francisco 49ers on that Thursday night game. Big shootout. Fantasy team did so bad that week. Fantasy football, by the way, it's kind of changed the way that we watch football as NFL fans. I will say, it makes you want to watch more games, see how your players perform in real time. But it's for NFL players, it's got to be so tough. Because a lot of players are like, oh, I don't care about your fantasy team trying to win. Of course you are. Try to win. But can you please give me like 300 yards this week? Ah, man. Now, fantasy football's changed the game. It's been a thing for, I want to say, about maybe almost 10 years now. And drafting all these players, some people see it as really pointless. It takes away from the actual experience of just enjoying the game. And the way my season's going this year, yes, it definitely does. Fantasy is something else. It's very interesting. And the amount of people who take it super intense. I mean, I'm committed to football. That's my thing. I'm always going to be into it. And if I'm into anything with football, I play Madden Mobile. That's my game. It's like the game I play all the time when I'm on my downtime. Girlfriend doesn't necessarily enjoy that I play it all the time, but we move past it. That's what the thing is. You just, you work at your relationship. Some things you have to give and take. I like playing Madden Mobile, and she likes watching anime. Let's see. Detroit at Minnesota. Detroit's been playing pretty well recently. Matthew Stafford, they were only 6 inches short of beating Atlanta last week. And Atlanta, for as high as they are in power rankings, a 3-0 team, all the respect out there for them. They've just been so close to losing these games the last few weeks. I can't imagine that they would beat anybody top tier right now. Like, they couldn't beat Kansas City. I would put money that Kansas City would beat Atlanta. There's something a little bit amiss about this Atlanta team ever since they lost Super Bowl 51. They're 3-0. Don't get me wrong. Still up there in the power rankings, up there in the standings, but I don't know. Detroit's a pretty good team, just by 6 inches, though. I know a Detroit fan who was quite upset about that. Could have gone either way, I suppose, in her opinion. I don't know. Like, I feel like if they played the Raiders, that'd be a really good shootout game. But the way the Raiders played last week, I don't know. They didn't even notch more than, 10 points against the Washington Redskins. Come on, Oakland. You're supposed to be the one this year. Dethrone the Patriots, as Nicholas Penninger would say. Let's see. But I feel like that could be a pretty good game. Matthew Stafford is also ruled out. That was an update I found out about this week. And honestly, I just think it puts Detroit over the top. It could still be an interesting game. Chase Keenum had a pretty good week last week. Was one of Kurt Warner's top 5 quarterbacks from week 3. So, I mean, there's still the potential out there. It could be like a week-to-week kind of deal, see how he plays. The LA Rams are going to be going to Dallas this week as well. And Dallas coming off a big win against Arizona. But we'll have to see how this one pans out. LA Rams, they have a really, really good defense, playing in the Coliseum. LA, having two teams, man. It mixes me up when I talk about these teams because I'm still trying to refer to the LA Rams as like they're still in St. Louis or the LA Chargers as if they're still in San Diego. So, we'll see how that goes. But no, I think this is going to be a pretty good game. Dak Prescott, Ezekiel Elliott, they would have a tough time against a very strong Rams defense. And, Jared Goff, they have the highest scoring offense in football right now. The LA Rams of all teams, people. Who would have seen that coming? Unless you play for the Rams or you're in the organization. Maybe. Truthfully, deep down in your heart, I would never have expected the LA Rams to be the number one scoring team when they were heading into week 3 at least. Let's see. Buffalo at Atlanta. Atlanta's going to run away with that. It's in Atlanta, that beautiful new Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Chick-fil-A's not open on Sundays, but they got one. They got one. Monday night games, Thursday night games are going to be so eventful. It's going to smell so good in that stadium. So exciting. Sunday, the 4 p.m. lineup, you have Philadelphia at the LA Chargers. This game could be good, could be bad. Depends on how ready the LA Chargers are for this kind of defense. A very strong front four. Barnett, you have Fletcher Cox, you have a very strong linebacker. I like Michael Kendricks. That kicker, man, that last week in that game, 61-yard field goal as a rookie. Carson Wentz, man, are you going to pay up? You got to pay up to that kid. How much does Carson Wentz make? I've heard so many reports, like $31,000 for a game check or $300-something thousand. That's a lot of cheddar. That's a lot of cheddar, man. Philadelphia Eagles are something this season as well. San Francisco at Arizona. I can't imagine this is going to be one of the best games of the week. It could be another shootout unexpectedly. Arizona's defense still, in my opinion, top tier. The offense is a little lacking, but I'm going to start Larry Fitzgerald this week. I think he's going to have a good week. See how that goes. Ryan Hoyer, Shanahan, they're trying to do good things out there. John Lynch, the new GM for San Francisco. They're trying to do great things. They have quite the time to do it, and this team can only get better. I don't imagine them being last place. I feel like they still win a couple games. This could be one of those games that they upset somebody and win. Almost upset the LA Rams in that big shootout on Thursday last week. Let's see. New York Giants at Tampa Bay. The Giants' offensive line problems. I'm going to keep talking about this week to week until it gets finished. The Giants are 0-3 as I predicted, and it's a never-ending problem for the Giants. It seems like in the last couple seasons is offensive line troubles. Until they get that figured out, there's no shot of making the playoffs. But you never know. The NFL is crazy. Teams go 7-9, win their division. I feel like that could be something that could be changed. But no, the Giants, they technically they could still be in the running. They could win the rest of the games of the season and win the division. It's just the statistical odds of doing so extremely low. Let's see, Oakland at Denver. This could be a good game defensively. The Oakland secondary got burned last week against Kirk Cousins, allowing a ton of points. Let's see, Denver, Trevor Siemian had a bad week against Buffalo, but they could definitely rebound. I could see it happening. This could be an interesting game in Denver. With the high altitude, it bothers a lot of players. I feel like that's what keeps Denver in these games, man. They have the highest winning percentage of any team at home over the last 20 years because of that high altitude, man. Not a lot of teams can go in there and hang for the whole 60 minutes of game time, the whole 3.5 hours of actual game play. Very tough. Very, very tough. The Sunday night game is going to be Indianapolis at Seattle. I think Seattle just runs away with this one. As far as I understand, Andrew Luck is not starting at all this week. For all I know, he could be on injured reserve for the next 5-6 weeks. Still dealing with a shoulder injury. Washington at Kansas City. Kansas City for the Monday night game on ESPN. This one could be either a head-to-head shootout battle. Kirk Cousins, Alex Smith, Kareem Hunt, Terrell Pryor. It could be a shootout battle. Or it could very well be a knockout punch early in the first quarter kind of deal, and then they just run away with it. So that's your lineup of games for Week 4, and it could be a very, very interesting one this week.
Love it. Your new favorite station.
You like it, I love it. You like it, I love it. This is your man, Flo Rida.
All Hit station. RFR. Radio Free Radford.
Speaking of the NFL, we're back now. This is Tristan Blake Rines here with Radio Free Radford. You're listening to the Thursday show for the Rines Report, 5 p.m. every week. We're going to have a number of hosts on this year. I'm so happy to be back. Every time I say it, I just mean it even more and more and more. Let's see. So, news in the NFL, Adrian Peterson tweaked knee, misses practice. Adrian Peterson, since going to New Orleans, and even over the last few seasons, honestly, I don't know if he's been much of a factor for anybody, including his Vikings team. Tore his ACL last year and was a non-factor all season. And Adrian Peterson to the New Orleans Saints to me didn't make too much sense. Personally, I thought he was going to go to the New York Giants. They needed a run game. They needed a power back kind of guy, veteran savvy to help develop younger players. And he decided to go to New Orleans where they had an established running back in Mark Ingram. And as well, Alvin Kamara, a threat in the returning game, has also come onto the scene as a very good receiving option out of the running back position for Drew Brees. So for Adrian Peterson, I wonder what the odds are on him getting traded before week 6 to somebody else, because he hasn't necessarily lived up to the hype. Veteran player. I feel like he's probably hit the hill. A lot of players can compete at such a high level after the age of 30, and I love Adrian Peterson. I have an Adrian Peterson jersey from when I was younger. But it could be his time. This is probably going to be his last season. Sometimes you just got to realize that it's time. It's time to head out. He had a great, great career. Unfortunately, didn't get a chance to win a Super Bowl. But if they trade him somewhere, he could end up winning a Super Bowl somewhere else. There are reports of him having interest from all sorts of teams. Imagine him backing up Marshawn Lynch in Oakland. See, that's something I could definitely see happening. Backing up there, taking over a starting role for the New York Giants. He doesn't feel like he's getting enough snaps. So I could see that happening. Adrian Peterson, either he's going to have to call it, after this season. I hope he doesn't keep sticking around. Not that I don't like the guy. I've said it already. But you just can't, We'll see. Broncos players say they'll stand for the national anthem. This is a big deal. This is one of the, the few teams that I haven't really heard anything about them from last week. Maybe because they were playing at Buffalo, not a very interesting kind of game, not a lot of views on it. But standing for the national anthem as a unit, that sounds like something that's newsworthy now. Now that so many teams have been taking knees, have been protesting the national anthem. A nice little make you smile kind of story out of this week. Deshaun Watson, the rookie quarterback for the Houston Texans, like I said a number of times, my Rookie of the Year candidate. If he takes that team to the playoffs, man, I feel like there's definitely a position for him there. If Kareem Hunt, I don't want Kareem Hunt to fall off unless he's playing against me in fantasy again. But no, Kareem Hunt right now is leading the Offensive Rookie of the Year race by far. As the most yards of anybody in his rookie season at this point. Are you kidding me? Kid's a monster. I wish I had the option to take the kid in fantasy. I didn't do it. Now I'm hitting myself in the forehead, just like against a wall. But no, Deshaun Watson gave his first check to Hurricane Harvey victims, employees who work with the organization, and it's such a charitable move. How do you not like this kid? Excuse me, my apologies. How do you not like this kid? Exactly, you can't. Very nice gesture. Let's see. J.J. Watt saying he doesn't care that he has no sacks yet. I'm sure that's true because he'd rather see his team winning in games, being productive. It's going to be a big Thursday night game tonight. Man, my voice is going. Whew. That's not good. I still have lab tonight. Whew. Thank you. Let's see. Clutch performers of the week. We have Brandon Cooks, Jake Elliott. I feel like Jake Elliott pretty much takes the cake on this one. How do you not? Brandon Cooks made a great catch for the Patriots against the Texans. Toe-tipping at the end of the game catch to give the Patriots the win. Jake Elliott making a 61-yard field goal. Nobody thought he was going to make it because previously, the week before, he had missed like a 30-yarder or something like that, hooked it, and missed 30-yard field goal. Doesn't look very good. But then you go out and hit a 61-yard field goal for the Philadelphia Eagles. That fan base, if you can't say that fan base is committed, I don't know what fan base you would say is committed the way that they are. They're also the most rowdy crowd in the NFL. The only team that I've heard of, and I'm pretty sure this is the only team this is true about, that they actually have a holding cell or jail inside of the stadium. You tell me that stadium doesn't get crazy loud? I would love to go to an Eagles game. Maybe sit a little higher. The lower down I feel like you go in that stadium, the more rowdy they get, the more fist fights you have the potential to get into. Now, Eagles fans they're something, man. I have the utmost respect for them, though, man. I would not want to get in a fist fight with any of them. Take it super seriously. It's a game at the end of the week, but, you know, it's a game. It's a game. It's so intense. My girlfriend, she works mostly on Sundays, stuff like that, but she watches me on Sundays when I watch Patriots games, or I'm watching any game in particular, and just sees me get super excited. I woke up my roommate. This week as I was celebrating so hard after like a touchdown or something, and he was like, "Wow!" I walked down the hallway, give me a look, and I was like, "I wonder what the noise was." He walked through the TV. He's like, "Oh, that's what it was." Touchdown, Patriots. Tariq Cohen for the game tonight is looking forward to the bad blood in this game. ChicagoBears.com. This game tonight, I could see there being a lot of productivity for Cohen. They focus mostly on Jordan Howard. You shut down one of them, the other of the two-headed monsters in that backfield. It seems like the Bears are just been getting lucky with running backs. Jeremy Langford at one point was their number one guy. Was not a bad running back. Tariq Cohen coming into his own, very good receiving threat. Jordan Howard, one of the leading rookie rushers last season, very big threat for that Chicago Bears team. Chicago's on the up and up. And they have Trubisky sitting on the bench right now. He'll be a good backup. He'll be a guy who could take over that team one day. He looked really good in the preseason. Has to get ready for the game speed, though. That's why you develop these guys. It's the best idea to have. Develop your players before they get ready for the big time. Preseason, it's a big deal for a lot of these rookies. Let's see. What else we got here? There's a lot of stuff that we can cover this week. And I'm trying to do my best to cover everything. Covered the protests at the beginning and the top of the show. We also talked about the scandal going on in college basketball. We talked about the games coming up this week. Talked about the Cavaliers gaining Dwayne Wade. We've been talking about a number of things this week. We being me. I think I'm so funny. Now, let's see, what else do we got here? Oh yeah, that's right. The MLB playoffs teams are starting to wrap up home field advantage and playoff positions. Good for them. Have to see how it goes. I'm still really impressed with that Aaron Judge kid out of New York. Even though my teams, they are Boston teams, go Red Sox, but you cannot not be impressed with Aaron Judge. Tying and breaking so many rookie records, not just for the Yankees, but league wide. Kid's a monster, like 6'7", like 250 plus, all muscle. Kid's a beast. I've seen his highlights from when he was in high school, like playing tight end and playing basketball. You couldn't stop that kid. There's no way. There's no way. Let's see. Love-hate for week 4 from Matthew Berry with ESPN. Let's see here. Tim Hasselbeck, they have a nice little rivalry as well. All sorts of stuff. Surprising person you ever asked fantasy advice for. Fantasy football, man, it's becoming a big deal this year. A lot of players coming out of nowhere. Let's see here. Quarterbacks to love in week 4, Russell Wilson. And this is all Matthew Berry from ESPN.com and talking about fantasy football, stuff like that. Wilson averaging 20.5 fantasy points per game, 17.5 on the road. Russell Wilson sounds good to me. Hopefully, I played him last week and he torched me. Phillip Rivers could have a really big week this week against the Philadelphia Eagles. Deshaun Watson, if you are on the fence about these rookie quarterbacks, Deshaun Watson to me could be one of those guys worth taking. Let's see. Guys, maybe not to start this week. Ben Roethlisberger hasn't been looking very good. Carson Wentz, maybe against this Chargers defense, maybe not the best. Running backs, Joe Mixon could be somebody you're willing to pick up this week for fantasy football. Has been getting an increased role with the Cincinnati Bengals. Christian McCaffrey, if you don't already have him, go get him. With Greg Olsen, Kelvin Benjamin either out or likely out. Less than 100% for Kelvin Benjamin. Greg Olsen's definitely out. McCaffrey's going to get a lot of workload. Tariq Cohen, definitely pick him up. I picked him up. Possibly James White for the Patriots. We'll see his role, if it increases, if it decreases. You never know with Patriots running backs. There's 4 of them back there who can run the ball and catch. So we'll see. Maybe not start Marshawn Lynch this week. let's see, Lamar Miller for the Texans, Amir Abdul and Theo Riddick for the Lions. Maybe not start either of them. Golden Tate for the Lions. You may want to start him. Devontae Parker, start him. A lot of guys to start. Maybe Rashard Matthews. I have him on my bench. Let's see how this goes. So, number of things to talk about. We're going to be leading out our show here in the next 10 minutes, but I want to give you guys my my picks. Let's see. I think I did okay this last week. Let me pull up my record. I should have done this already. Let's see, September 21st, 2017. Let's look at my record from last week. I think I was doing okay up until about the 4 o'clock game started rolling around. And I went 10-5 last week, so my record's doing pretty good. 10-5 last week. Let's see. Yep, 10-5. I'm pretty sure. So, yep, plus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, 10-5. So that makes me 19-10 on the season so far. Yeah, that's pretty good numbers, Tristan. Let's see. So, my picks for this week, I'm going to take Green Bay over Chicago in tonight's Thursday night game. Green Bay finally breaks the tie. And wins it 24-17. Aaron Rodgers has a good game. I don't feel like Chicago's going to have enough to keep up with this Green Bay team. They're going to look at seeing what the Cincinnati Bengals did to try to neutralize them. Green Bay had an overtime comeback last week. Let's see, the Sunday 9:30 a.m. Yahoo game in London. We're going to have New Orleans at Miami once again. New Orleans 35, Miami 10. Drew Brees had a hot game last week against Carolina. I had picked that upset. I'm taking New Orleans once again this week. They're going to roll on through Miami in London. Sunday 1 p.m. lineup, you have your Carolina New England. I'm taking New England 38-21 of Carolina. Jacksonville at the New York Jets. The defense for the Jets cannot do enough to stop them for the entire game. I'm going to take Jacksonville with a measly 17 over the 9 of the New York Jets. Tennessee at Houston. Big defense, big offensive line for Tennessee. I'm going to take Tennessee 31-16 over Houston. Pittsburgh at Baltimore, the rivalry. I'm taking this one in overtime. Pittsburgh 23-20 of Baltimore. Interesting matchup, interesting rivalry over the last few seasons for almost 10 years now. It's no matter who's in, no matter who's out, there's bad blood in that rivalry. It's always an interesting game to watch. Cincinnati at Cleveland. I'm going to be taking Cincinnati 28-17 over Cleveland. Deshaun Kaiser has a pretty good week, but not good enough to stop down and overpass Andy Dalton and A.J. Green. Detroit at Minnesota. Detroit 33-20 of Minnesota. Without Stafford, I just don't have the confidence that Minnesota is going to take it again. So Matthew Stafford has a big week, torches him up, and the running game might get a little productive this week. Let's see. At the LA Rams at the Dallas Cowboys, I'm taking the LA Rams with an upset over the Cowboys, 34-28. This high-scoring offense just keeps on rolling. Todd Gurley, Offensive Player of the Month for the NFL, just keeps on going. Destroyed me in fantasy football last week and is going to keep destroying everybody else. If you have Todd Gurley, thank your lucky stars that you have him. Buffalo at Atlanta. Atlanta 38-21 of Buffalo. I feel like Atlanta's defense might be a little more lenient this game, but Atlanta's offense is not going to be lenient. I'm looking for Devontae Freeman to have about 120, 150 total yards on the line of scrimmage. Big game for Devontae Freeman. If you have him, start him. Sunday, 4 o'clock games rolling out. We're going to have 4 games. We're going to start with Philadelphia at the L.A. Chargers. Philadelphia is going to take it 30-20 of the Chargers. I just feel like Carson Wentz has a big game. Alshon Jeffrey goes off in this game. And the running game, minus Darren Sproles, gets a few touchdowns. LeGarrette Blount's a powerhouse. San Francisco at Arizona. Arizona 28 to the San Francisco 17. San Francisco is showing some signs of life, but not enough for me. So I'm going to be taking Arizona. Larry Fitzgerald maybe having a good game, maybe about 80-something yards and a touchdown. New York Giants at Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay just takes this one. The pass rush for Tampa Bay is just too good. Too much for Eli Manning to handle. I think it's going to be Tampa Bay 23-6 of the New York Giants. The Oakland Raiders at Denver. I'm going to be taking Oakland in this one. Derek Carr has a bounce-back week. The offensive line gets its stuff going. Even on the high altitude, I just don't know if Trevor Siemian and that offense can keep up with the Oakland Raiders. The Sunday 8:30 NBC game, I'm going to be taking Indianapolis at Seattle. I'm going to be taking Seattle 28-10 of Indianapolis Colts. Without Andrew Luck, this Indianapolis team, unfortunately, is a little lost. They got the win against Cleveland last week, but not against a high-powered team like this. Monday, we're going to wrap it up with Washington at Kansas City. If it isn't close, it's going to be a blowout. I'm calling the blowout for Kansas City, 42-14 of Washington. Let's just... Lots going on this week. A lot of games you could be watching this week. Why don't you?
Ready? Come on! Go!
Hello, I am Ellie Goldie.
Hey everybody, this is Natalie Laros.
Hey, what's up? It's Brianna.
What up, y'all? This is Jeremiah.
Playing what you want to hear. RFR.
Tristan Blake Rines here with Radio Free Radford. We got 5 more minutes. We're going to wrap up the show a little early today. A little bit different. Got to get back to my bearings, my essential bearings of being a host. And without my guests on. But I want to thank everybody for tuning in this week, listening. If you're listening on YouTube, hit that subscribe button and hit the like on the video. Give me some comments. Give me some feedback. If you haven't already, like the Rines Report and Radio Free Radford on Facebook to get regular updates on new content and shows from all over sorts of variations of topics. Anything from pop culture, politics, sports, and music. Heck, if we have a weather show, we're putting it on. Tune into the Rines Report next week to catch all the major news out of the NFL and the NBA. Anything from anywhere, really. And have a wonderful weekend, everybody. I'm Tristan Blake Rines, listening to RadioFreeRadford.com. Like I said before, if you want to be a part of the program, if you're a student, email me at trines, T-R-I-N-E-S, at radford.edu to send me some interest. We have 15 shows, 15 number of great hosts with all these shows, like I said, covering for anything from sports, politics, pop culture to music. You have the option, your music your way, your show your way. Very glad to be a part of this great organization. Very glad to be a part of Highlander Student Media, along with great people like my photographer, S.J. Manzour, and people like Rock TV. We have a number of great programs. Tartan's always looking for people to write. The Beehive, Exit 109, like I said, Rock TV, Radio Free Radford. We have a SMADS office as well, and we have WIM. So we have a number of great programs. If you're interested, go ahead and check us out. We're in Tyler 025. Someone will be able to help you if you come through. Students allowed, and make sure you're tuning in, listening to all of our content, watching all of our videos, and have a great weekend, everybody. Once again, my name is Tristan Blake Rines, spelled R-A-N-E-S. You are listening to the Rines Report on RadioFreeRadford.com.